All right, so you know that feeling, right? Like when there's that buzz in the air because Apple's about to reveal something new?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The whole internet's like a hive mind trying to guess what's coming next.
Totally. And if you're anything like me, you're glued to your screen
Yeah,
trying to figure out what's real and what's just hype.
I'm right there with you.
Well, good news, because on the deep dive, that's what we're all about. We sort through all the rumors and get to the bottom of it.
Exactly. We've been doing our homework, digging through all the early reports. There's one rumor in particular that's got everyone buzzing. The possible iPhone 17 Air.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
We're diving into an article from, let me check the date, March 11th, 2025. It's called Apple iPhone 17 Air, what we know so far.
So you're saying we're going to break this down, give everyone the rundown on what we think this new iPhone could be all about.
You got it. This is like your cheat sheet to understanding what Apple might be cooking up.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, this is all based on leaks and speculation, right?
Right. Things could definitely change between now and when Apple actually unveils it.
Absolutely. We're working with the best info we have right now, but Apple always has a few surprises up their sleeve.
So where do we even begin with something like this? I mean, what's the first thing people want to know about a new iPhone? When's it coming out?
You're reading my mind. The article says September 2025 is the likely launch window. Pretty typical for Apple, right?
Mm.
To stick with that September timeframe for their big iPhone releases.
Oh, yeah, they've got a pretty consistent pattern going on.
If we go by past events, I'd say we're looking at that second week of September, maybe somewhere between the 11th and 13th.
Yeah, sounds about right. But you know what's really got people talking?
Spill it?
It's the design of the 17 Air. The rumors, they're hinting at something really interesting.
Okay, let's talk design. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about just how unbelievably thin this phone is supposed to be.
I know, right?
This article throws out a number. Get this. 5.5 millimeters.
5.5 millimeters. Wow. To put that in perspective, the iPhone 16 Pro, that's rumored to be around 8.25 millimeters.
Huge difference. We could be looking at the slimmest, most compact iPhone they've ever made. That's a big deal, wouldn't you say?
It's a big statement for sure. Like, it's Apple saying, this is what we think our customers want, a phone that feels almost weightless in your hand. But making something that thin, it comes with challenges.
Yeah, you can't just shrink everything down without making some compromises.
Exactly, and the article hints at a couple of those. A potentially smaller battery, which makes sense if you're trying to save space. And get this, it might not even have an ultra-wide camera lens.
No ultra wide. That's a tough one. I use that all the time for landscapes and big group shots. Feels like a staple feature on a high-end phone these days.
I hear you, but it shows just how committed they are to this thin design, that they might be willing to ditch a popular feature like the ultra-wide camera. It's a trade-off, for sure.
Yeah.
You get this incredibly slim profile, but you might be giving up some versatility in the camera department. It's a tough call.
It's like a puzzle, figuring out what Apple thinks is most important. But, even with a smaller battery, they got to make sure this phone can keep up right.
Absolutely, they can't skimp on performance, so what's under the hood?
Let's talk horsepower. The article mentions Apple's next-generation A19 chip and 8 GB of RAM. That's pretty serious power, especially for a phone that's supposed to be so thin.
No kidding. And they specifically call out these new intelligence features. That's where this new chip really comes into play, they're saying.
Intelligence features. So we're talking AI stuff.
Exactly. Think advanced photo editing right on your phone, Siri, that actually understands what you're saying. Even new augmented reality experiences, all powered by the phone itself, not the cloud.
So it's not just a pretty face, it's brainy too. Okay, but I want to go back to the camera for a second. We talked about maybe losing the ultra-wide, but what about the main camera? What's the story there?
Okay, so the report mentions a 48MP primary sensor with a 2x optical zoom. No slouch, right? It might not have the ultra-wide, but it sounds like you'll still be able to take some pretty great photos.
And 2x optical zoom, that's nice for close-ups without sacrificing image quality?
Exactly. It's about making choices, focusing on what they think matters most for this particular model.
Choices, I like that. So another interesting detail, there's mention of a power-efficient C1 modem. Now, I'm not a tech wizard. What does that even mean for everyday users?
I'm happy to explain. It's a good question. The C-series modems, those are designed by Apple themselves, not some third party. And a power-efficient modem, that's a big deal for battery life.
Oh, so even if the battery is smaller, this modem could help make up for it.
Exactly. They're looking at every angle to squeeze the most out of the battery life, even with the limitations of a super thin design. It's also about connectivity, having a strong, reliable connection wherever you go. In today's world, that's pretty crucial.
Absolutely. No one wants a phone that's constantly searching for a signal. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the rumors and specs, but things get really interesting when we start looking at the leaked renders and design mock-ups.
Oh, yeah, those are always fun. They give us these sneak peeks, these little glimpses into what the phone might actually look like. They're not always 100% accurate, but they're definitely interesting.
Totally. So initially, the rumors pointed to a 6.6-inch display. Pretty standard for iPhones these days. But hold on, because there's more.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the twist?
More recent leaks, and these are coming from a pretty reliable source, Ice Universe, suggest a bigger display. We're talking 6.9 inches. That's quite a jump.
6.9 inches, that's getting into iPhone Pro Max territory. That's a massive screen.
It's big. And here's the kicker. Even with that larger screen, they're saying the overall dimensions, like the length and width, are going to be similar to the iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Hold on, so a bigger screen but the same overall size. That means the bezels around the screen must be incredibly thin.
You're getting it. They're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with the design. I mean, think about it. A bigger screen in the same footprint. It's all about that immersive experience. Less bezel, more screen.
But that's not even the biggest design change. Are you ready for this?
Hit me with it.
The mock-ups show a horizontal camera bar stretching across the back of the phone. It's a total departure from what we're used to with iPhones. Think Google Pixel vibes.
A horizontal camera bar. That's a bold move. It's
Uh,
definitely going to turn heads. It makes you wonder, though, is this just an aesthetic choice or is there some functionality tied to it?
Good question. We'll have to wait and see what Apple has to say about that.
Yeah.
One thing that's a little bit of a bummer, though, the cameras still seem to stick out a bit, even with this new design.
So the wobble problem might not be completely solved.
Yeah.
You know, that thing where the phone doesn't sit flat on a table because of the camera bump?
Yeah, exactly. It seems like even with a radical redesign, some of those physics challenges are tough to get around. At least that's what it looks like from the renders.
Okay, so mixed bag on the camera bump. But there is some good news for those who like familiarity. It seems like the button layout, the USB-C port, and the speaker holes are all staying pretty much the same as the current iPhones.
Oh, that's good to know. People like their familiar buttons and ports.
Totally. And of course, we can pretty much guarantee Face ID and the dynamic island on the front. Those have become signature Apple features at this point.
Yeah, it seems like they're sticking with what works for the front-facing experience, even if the back of the phone is getting a major makeover.
So let's bring it all back around to our listeners, the tech enthusiasts who want to stay ahead of the curve. I think we've uncovered some pretty big takeaways here, right?
Oh, absolutely. If these leaks hold true, the iPhone 17 Air is shaping up to be a pretty big deal.
That 5.5 millimeter thinness, that's a game changer. And the horizontal camera bar, that's a pretty dramatic shift for Apple.
No doubt. This could be the phone that everyone's talking about come next fall, especially if it does have that huge 6.9-inch display. That's going to appeal to a lot of people.
Okay, so let's recap. The iPhone 17 Air. Ultra-thin design, potentially a big 6.9-inch screen. Apple's next-gen A19 chip, which should mean some serious AI capabilities. A completely redesigned camera system with a horizontal bar, and of course the possibility of some trade-offs like no ultra-wide lens.
Don't forget, all of this is based on leaks and rumors, so the final product might be a bit different.
Right. Always good to keep that in mind. Apple's pretty good at keeping secrets.
They are the masters of surprise.
So here's something for everyone to think about. Apple is clearly making some big bets with the iPhone 17 Air, especially with that super slim profile and the new camera setup. What other changes do you think they have in store for us down the road? What features are going to become more important, or maybe even less important, as phones continue to evolve?
Yeah, it's all about priorities, figuring out what matters most. It'll be interesting to see where Apple goes from here.
Absolutely. The future of the iPhone is always exciting. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.